Hey, what is up guys? Welcome to another video. In this video I'll be talking about the 2018 mathematics GCSEs, which are coming up in May and June. And in particular I'll be talking about what to expect in terms of the non-calculator versus the calculator papers. So what I did was I looked at the GCSE papers from June 2017, November 2017, and mock set 3 from autumn 2017. So these are all pretty recent GCSE exam papers. What I did was I looked at the 3 non-calculator papers from those 3 sets of exams, and I wrote down all of the topics from those papers. So I started off with this column here. So this is paper 1 non-calculator, and I just wrote down a quick list of all the topics that I saw in those papers. Then I went on to the calculator papers, and I wrote down any topics that I hadn't already seen in the non-calculator papers. I hope you can see where I'm going with this. The idea was to see what topics come up in the calculator papers that are not showing up in the non-calculator papers. The reason I did this was because Edexcel don't give much information as to what topics turn up in which papers, and the idea is that they can put any topics in any paper. There's no kind of rule as to which papers will get which topics. So I did a quick analysis, and as you can see there's a pretty short list of topics that do not show up in the non-calculator papers. So let's have a look at those 6 topics I found. So the first one was iterations. I couldn't find an iterations question in the non-calculator papers. I couldn't find a compound interest question in the non-calculator papers. There was also a question about calculations involving upper and lower bounds, which I didn't really see an example of in the non-calculator papers. There was a question about shifting the graph of a trigonometric curve, actually the sine wave. So this is the question I'm talking about. I didn't see an example of this in the non-calculator papers. However, this doesn't require a calculator, so this could technically show up in a non-calculator paper. So this one it gives you a sine wave, but it's been shifted down and across, and you have to find the values of a and b in this equation. Also, the period has been elongated a little bit. So typically a sine wave will start at 0, go up to 90, down to 180, down to -1, and then up to 360. And obviously they've moved the wave a little bit, and you have to figure out how the values of a and b affect that wave. But as I said, that could come up in a non-calculator paper as well. I couldn't find any examples of questions involving equations and graphs of circles in the non-calculator papers. That's not to say they couldn't be in there, but perhaps they don't put those in the non-calculator papers because sometimes they involve taking the square root of something, and that can obviously be difficult without a calculator. And I couldn't find any examples of histograms in the non-calculator papers. I think that's because when you're drawing a histogram you need to find the frequency density, and that often involves calculating using decimals. So there you go, there's my quick analysis of looking at the non-calculator versus the calculator papers. A couple of people asked me to have a look at this after I posted my video of an analysis of the 2017 exams. Initially I thought there's not going to be any difference because Edexcel don't say that there's any particular topics in each paper, and they can put whatever they want in any of the papers. There's no kind of, they don't split them up into 3 papers to separate the topics. They only do that so you're not sitting a 3-hour exam, and one of those papers Ofqual has said has to be non-calculator. So really I don't think there's much of a difference. All I could find was 6 topics, which isn't many compared to all of the different topics you get in GCSE mathematics. So honestly, I don't think this should affect your revision plan too much. In a non-calculator paper, I think the strategies and the methods of solving questions are still pretty similar. The only real difference is between the numbers that you're using. So in a non-calculator paper, they tend to give you numbers which are easy to calculate with, and in a calculator paper, they can give you any numbers they like. That's really the only difference that I can identify, and I wanted to make this video just to point out the fact that there isn't much of a difference between the papers, and a couple of people did ask me to have a look at this, so I thought I'd share my thoughts on this topic. So if you're considering what to expect in the non-calculator versus the calculator papers, then I would say don't expect much of a difference in terms of topics. And the only real advice I would say is make sure your calculator is working for the calculated papers. And when it comes to revision before the non-calculator paper, look at non-calculator exams. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing really too mind-blowing here. It's just, I guess, pretty common sense stuff. Also, just wanted to say a quick thank you. On my last video, I did ask for suggestions about which topics to cover in my next videos, and a lot of people left suggestions, which I really appreciate, and I'll be making my way through those topics when I get the time. I like to put a bit of effort into my videos. If I do a video on a different topic, then I like to generally start from the very basics and then work up to the more complicated questions. So thanks for watching. Leave a like if you did appreciate this, subscribe if you want to see more content, and as always, leave suggestions in the comments for anything else you want me to cover on this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.